I'm a social roboticist. I'm very much fascinated in the way different cultures interact with each, socially interact. When I was a PhD student in Europe, I was using the corridors as my living laboratory. Of course, they don't know. So for example, from this point until that door, so the social norm there was to shake hands with the people that pass. That would be very interesting if there are people there, 15 people who will be passing there. From where I came from, this one, or that one, or simple highs and lows would be okay. Of course, you have to do that with a smile. Over here in Qatar, and I've tested this theory just outside. So here, I've been studying handshake biomechanics for a long time. So typical handshakes that I know is something like that, right? So what I've seen here is just very interesting variant of this kind of handshake is something that I call a very simple variant of a high five or a mid five plus a handshake. True or not? I've seen this many times. Touching is very important in social interactions. It is through touch that distinct emotions such as sympathy, gratitude, love, disgust, fear, and anger are being communicated to another person. But what if that ability to touch is lost? To those who have lost their arms, hands, or fingers due to war or accident, touching becomes a serious concern. And this often leads to psychosocial issues and the social stigma. Reported effects of amputation are as follows: depression, feelings of hopelessness, low self-esteem, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. 25.5 million in Asia, Africa, and Latin America are in need of prosthetic or orthotic devices. This comes from a 2005 report by the World Health Organization. So, while I was doing this, while I was preparing this talk, I tried to recall this story when somebody sent me an email, and this was the son, and he sent an email, and it says, "My mother had an accident 4 days ago. Her ring finger was cut half by a machine. I was looking over the internet but I can't find a good site to search for doctors who could make a prosthetic finger. Please help us." This was way back in 2009. So this was through email communications. The mother sent to me this picture, and she said that she could not stand looking at her own hands simply because she was deeply concerned with what other people would think, and how would they react when they see her hands. Coming over here, this just happened right now. Coming over here, I was playing with my fingers like this, and I pulled something, and I had a small wound, and that caused this stain. So over the mirror, I was checking myself. Will I cover this up? Or will I show it to everyone? And I'll be facing in front of you, a lot of people in front here. This is how she adapts, and this is how she copes. She covers her fingers with a bandage whenever she comes out in public. Society can be, there could be social prejudice sometimes, and acceptance may not be as quick. You see, her hand is fully functioning. At home, she removes this bandage and continues her daily chores with no problem whatsoever. But when she comes out, why is it that she's wearing something like this? But of course, we understand that in injuries like this, there will be some coping process for that healing to happen. So let's begin the design. So what we've done, because way back then we know how fingertips for social robotic fingertips behave already. So we know how this behaves. We've been well, that's part of my PhD work. We've been working on artificial fingertips wherein we indent various shapes on it, sharp wedge, braille surfaces, curved surfaces, flat surfaces. And what you saw there were simulations, finite element simulations, modeling simulations, wherein we study the behavior of the human fingertip. So what I've asked is to send the problem. The problem here was that we don't know the geometry. We're thousands of kilometers away from each other. So what we've done is, what I've asked her to do for me is to request that she goes, I made a request that she goes to her preferred hospital so that she can get a CT scan, computer tomography scan of her hands, both the affected and the non-affected hands, and send this over to me over the internet. So here in 2011, I introduced a technology called patient-specific prosthetic fingers by remote collaboration. So using visualization tools, computer-aided design, and rapid prototyping techniques, we're able to send a prosthetic finger to the patient without even seeing her. So with that technology, I don't even have to see her in person. Of course, I understand that there's privacy issue involved in injuries like this. So of course, the coloration is not yet, there are issues with color matching and coloration, but that's okay for now. So last semester, my students did this artificial hand. We know that also that prosthetics have a social purpose. So that's the patient wants an upgrade, so this is what we've done with that project. Let me have the second one, which is very interesting. So technology has been evolving very quickly. As you can see here, this is now the state of the art of prosthetic hands. And this is through the collaboration that I have with my colleagues at Infinite Biomedical Technologies and the Synapse Institute of National University of Singapore. So you saw over there that the hands were cold and stiff. So what we want to understand now is how do we make artificial hands that would feel lifelike when this artificial hand touches another person. Of course, we go back to this model, our human hands, and we try to investigate, we try to mimic the important features of an artificial hand. So it has a complex anatomy, it has a complex structure. And it has bones, nerves, arteries, muscles, so on and so forth. And there's a protective covering called the skin. And this skin, it has versatile properties when it's tough against external elements, but it's soft enough to touch a baby. It's also warm enough to soothe someone else's aches and pains. With this, inspired by the human hand, we wanted to create something that has these kinds of features. So again, we began that study. Here are my co-workers. So what we have here are various samples of artificial fingertips, wherein we have over here an increasing warmth. We have implemented 22 degrees Celsius, 27 degrees Celsius, 32 and 37 degrees Celsius on that particular axis, and varying softness. So we varied temperature, softness, and warmth. So this is how it looks like. It has embedded heaters at the bottom and temperature sensor over there to detect ambient temperature. Thanks to those 165 participants, we now know what are the essential features to make artificial fingertips that would feel lifelike. So we know the material, and we're able to calculate the temperature, and this amounts to about 29 degrees Celsius. So the next question is, the next step is for us to implement these features in a prosthetic hand like this one. These are the molds with my own flesh and bones using the technology that I showed you a while ago. So then we ask, which artificial hand is as soft as a human hand? So here, as you can see, that's my hand over here being indented by a robot. And that robot applies 1 Newton force, and the robot measures the corresponding displacement. So we compared an artificial hand with skeleton and the one without. You can see there. So the next slide shows us that the plot, the contours, the coloration of that particular, the 780 data points that we have. When we indent, when we use the robot to indent 1 Newton constant force on the skin, the human and the artificial one, there will be corresponding displacements that you can see there. As you can see from my hand and this hand with bone, you can see the blue coloration, the light blue and the dark blue, being similar at the 4 fingers. We did further processing on that one, and this is what we have. So as you can see, the red parts over there, when we compared human and artificial hand with skeleton, the red regions there shows that there's no significant difference between the human hand and the artificial hand with skeleton. Over here, we see that the one without bone is too soft. And the problem with that is if we use that to touch somebody else, that will feel very creepy. Okay, so the next question is the touch from a human hand? So in here, what we're doing is to indent, to touch the subjects, 28 of them, with my hand, and an artificial hand with, which is warm and soft, and soft and cold. From those 28 subjects and about 588 trials, the subjects responded with a 5-point scale like this, with 1 being an artificial hand and 2 being the touch from a human hand. 5 being touched from a human hand. So we plotted using a receiver operating characteristics tool, a curve rather. So we plotted the correctly recognized touches from the warm or cold artificial hand. That's true positive. And here is the false positive, meaning it's the mistakenly recognized touches from the human hand. The numbers that are more interesting for us is what is called area under the curve, which is an AUC closer to 0.5 means that the touch from an artificial hand will be more difficult to distinguish from the human hand. So that diagonal line over there is our target. So here is the data of the soft and cold artificial hand. The AUC is 0.697. As you can see there, it's farther from the diagonal line. The next one is interesting. Here, this is from the soft and warm artificial hand, and you can see an AUC which is 0.562, and that is now closer to our diagonal line. In short, what this tells us is that with an artificial hand with these properties, which is soft and warm, it's more difficult to differentiate this from the human hand. We have come, this kind of prosthetic hook has been there for more than a century now. It has retained its basic design, and it's been effective. However, for some, the rejection rate for this one is 50% among those who are using it. So if you even search now on the internet, check YouTube and so on, technologies have really grown and has grown fast. And as you can see, but what you will find there is that prosthetic hands are still cold and soft. What's happening is that we're still looking for that prosthetic hand with human touch, and this is where we come in. So what we've demonstrated is we're able to create an illusion of human touch from a warm and soft artificial hand, and looking in the future, if these are implemented as an assistive device or as an assistive tool for prosthetic hands, this may have the potential for it to help those who were injured from war or accident. And this could help them cope, especially at the early stage of their coping process and early stage of their healing process. Thank you very much.